My name is Ray. I would like to show you some more about how Ray's Bridge Game plays the hand. I am assuming that you have watched the video on playing in Ray's Bridge Game, Introduction to Playing. That video presented several features of the game that affect how the game plays. Playing manually versus the rules playing, settings in the rule set panel, actual cards versus inferred cards, information known by observation and examination, adding rules that test information, how to see the information a player knows, Boolean variables, and suit attributes. In this video, we will see how the game uses a player's information to decide which card to play by tracing South's opening lead. The deal is already loaded into the game. In the rule set panel, other players' cards is set to show. Rules use is set to actual cards. Since we are studying this deal, the rules will use the actual cards. If the bidding rules were allowed to bid the hands, East would get the contract for 4 spades. But recall from the video Introduction to Playing that the rules that come with the game only know how to play no trump. I hope to add rules for suit contracts fairly soon. So let's set the contract to East for 1 no trump. It is South's turn to lead. Bring up a values set for South window. From this information, what should South lead? First, looking at the section Sure Tricks, it is obvious that South does not need to take their 1 sure trick too quickly. East can take 3 tricks, West can take 4, North can't take any, and South can take 1. That leaves 5 tricks not accounted for. With 5 tricks outstanding, South should be thinking of developing some tricks. One observation about developing tricks. In general, with some exceptions, if there are as many or more probable sure tricks as there are tricks left to play in a hand, no tricks can be developed. But if there is 1 free trick and you have the lead, it may be possible for your side to take that last trick. The easiest way to promote a trick is to have a suit in which you lose 1 and then win 1. You lead to opponent's winner, and when your side gets back in, you take that trick and then the rest of your sure tricks. In those deals where there are more free tricks, there are even more ways in which tricks can be developed. With enough room, you can promote tricks in suits where you lose more than 1 trick to gain a trick. You generally need much more room because the opponents will also be working on promotions of their own. Then, looking at the section Win-Lose, each suit can be classified by their win-lose profile. Spades, no tricks to develop there. Hearts, if East can be made to play that ace, 5 tricks will be opened in hearts. If South can get back in with the ace of diamonds, South will have a heart to lead to North's entry. Or perhaps East or West will be forced to lead a heart later. Diamonds. Diamonds is a 1-win stopper. We don't want to just give that winner away. Clubs. Clubs is worse when we lead. Close the value set for South window. Let's see what the rules select for South to play. Left-click on South's play. South plays the 4 of hearts. Why did the rules select that card? How did the rules use the information known by South? To see why and how, trace South's play. I am going to move fairly quickly through the trace. I want to highlight certain aspects of the rules without spending too much time on the mechanics of tracing. I will describe the action to be taken and then take that action in the tracer. The most important point is to see how the rules use the player's information to set variables and then use those variables to decide upon a card to play. In this play, certain variables are of particular interest. 2 counters, extra tricks we can take if left-hand opponent leads, extra tricks we can take if right-hand opponent leads. 5 Boolean variables. There are 4 or more free tricks. I have room to develop 2 or more suits. We take more tricks if either opponent leads. We have only one winning suit. All of my winning suits are one-win stoppers. One suit attribute must be developed. Take back South's play. Right-click on South's play to trace South's play of the 4 of hearts. These are the selectors for this set of playing rules. There are only 2 because there are only 2 main groups. One main group for no trump, one main group for suit contracts. I'm just going to run the selectors. The selector play at no trump will be true. The main group play at no trump will be used. This is the main group play at no trump. This group chooses which path to take based upon the player's playing order on the current trick. The player's playing role does not matter. Dummy plays the same way as left defender. The right panel of the tracer contains several pieces of information in addition to commands to run the tracer. At the top is information about the play, the contract, and the number of tricks left, the action being taken by the current player, the name of the rule set being used to play, the name of the file where the rule set is stored, the name of the selector or main group being traced. Following those 5 pieces of information, the right panel displays the commands to run the tracer. The commands are tailored for the rule highlighted in the left panel as next to be executed. Following the commands is information about the next rule to be executed. First, the line number of the rule in the rule set file. Then information about the rule. If the next rule to be executed is a test, the panel will show what the result of that test will be, true or false. Following the result, information about the test is shown. If the rule tests an assessment, the assessment's conclusion will be shown. If the assessment has comments, the first comment will be shown. If the rule is a simple test, the values that will be used to make the test are shown. This information can be especially useful on tests where numbers are involved. A variable settings window has been opened. This window shows the information the rules use to decide the play. Let's collapse all of the categories. The categories in the left column have the same information as the values set for South window. The right column is categories of information set by the rules themselves. The first test in the first rule in play at no trump is a simple test. It will be true. The second test tests an assessment. When the next test to be performed is a call to an assessment, the right panel will contain the command run or trace the assessment. Left-clicking on the command causes the game to run the assessment. Right-clicking on the command causes the game to trace the assessment. As I perform the trace, I will point out whether I'm running or tracing an assessment. The assessment, I have a card to lead in no trump, will be true, and leads to a rule that plays best card. The variable best card must obviously get set somewhere during the running of I have a card to lead in no trump. Let's trace it. This is the assessment I have a card to lead in no trump. The first rule is a use statement which will call the assessment set initial Boolean variables. There is nothing of interest in it. Let's run it. The second assessment, I have a card to lead playing no trump, will be true and leads to a true conclusion. Let's trace it. This is the assessment, I have a card to lead playing no trump. First, this assessment calls classify suits playing first at no trump to set the Boolean variables, suit attributes, and counters that will be tested to determine exactly which suit and card to play. Then, this assessment calls I have a suit and card to lead playing no trump to test those settings to determine the play. The two counters, 5 Boolean variables, and one suit attribute that were listed earlier as being of interest all get set in classify suits playing first at no trump. Let's trace that. This is the assessment classify suits playing first at no trump. This assessment calls 23 additional assessments to set the Boolean variables, suit attributes, and counters needed by the rules. Each of the assessments has a name and a numerical suffix. Some of the assessments share the same name because they set similar types of information. The suffix is used to distinguish between them. The work of setting a player's information is divided into multiple assessments for two reasons. First, it makes each assessment smaller and easier to understand. Second, the individual assessments can be arranged in whatever order is necessary. Some values are prerequisites for other values. The two counters we are interested in, extra tricks we can take if left-hand opponent leads and extra tricks we can take if right-hand opponent leads, are set in the assessment set counters 1. So let's trace that. This is the assessment set counters 1. This assessment calls 5 additional assessments to set counters that will be used by the rules. The two counters in which we are interested are set in the last assessment. Count the number of extra tricks we can take. So let's just run all these and we'll trace this last one. This is the assessment, count the number of extra tricks we can take. This assessment counts the number of extra tricks that we can take in each suit and adds them together. It sets the suit variable temp suit 4 to each suit one at a time and calls the assessment count the number of extra tricks we can take 1 to count the extra tricks in each suit. Expand the categories win-lose, suit, card, and trick variables, and counters set by rule. The counters I and J will be used to count the extra tricks. Initialize them to 0. See, there's 0 here. We will just run the counting of spades and hearts and trace the counting of diamonds and clubs. So we'll set temp suit 4 to diamonds, and now we'll trace. This is the assessment count the number of extra tricks we can take 1. This assessment counts extra tricks in temp suit 4. In this case, temp suit 4 is set to diamonds. The first test is of left opponent's length in temp suit 4. West has 4 diamonds. Add the number of possible tricks we can take in diamonds when I lead to I. Or add the number of possible tricks we can take in diamonds when left-hand opponent leads in diamonds. That would be 2. That's 2. Subtract the number of possible tricks we can take in diamonds when I lead. that would be 1. I is equal to 1. If I is positive, that indicates that we benefit by left-hand opponent having the lead. The larger I is, the better it is for left-hand opponent to lead. Make the same calculation for right-hand opponent leading using the counter J. This, if right-hand opponent, adding the number of possible tricks we can take if right-hand opponent leads, and that's 1. Subtract the number of possible tricks we can take if I lead, and that is 1. That leaves J at 0. We are back in count the number of extra tricks we can take. Trace the counting of clubs. Then set I by adding the number of possible tricks we can take in Temp Suit 4 if left opponent leads, and that would be 1. Subtract the number of possible tricks we can take in Temp Suit 4 if I lead, and that would be 0. And right opponent has 4 clubs. Set J by adding the number of tricks we can lead if right opponent leads. That's 1. Set J by subtracting the number of possible tricks we can take in Temp Suit 4 if I lead. That's 0. In the variable settings window, you can see I is 2 and J is 1. Set the counters extra tricks we can take if left-hand opponent leads, and extra tricks we can take if right-hand opponent leads. We are back in set counters 1. We are back in classify suits playing first at no trump. The first Boolean variable we are interested in, there are 4 or more free tricks, is set in the assessment set Boolean variables 1. So let's trace it. This is the assessment set Boolean variables 1. This assessment calls 2 other assessments to set Boolean variables. The name of these assessments are the same as the name of the assessment we are in, indicating ownership. The dot notation of the suffixes indicates their hierarchy. The Boolean variables, there are 4 or more free tricks, is set in set Boolean variables 1.2. So we'll run this first one and trace the second one. This is the assessment set Boolean variables 1.2. It sets 12 Boolean variables based upon the number of tricks left to play versus the number of probable sure tricks everyone can take. The variable, there are 4 or more free tricks, is the last variable set in the assessment. The next rule sets the counter X to the number of probable tricks that everyone can take in all suits if I lead. And that would be the number of tricks, the number of possible tricks everyone can take in all suits if I lead is 8. And we'll just run to all of these to the last rule. X is 8. The number of tricks left to play equals 9. So the test will be true. X is less than or equal to the number of tricks left to play minus 4. Set there are 4 or more free tricks to true. We are back in set Boolean variables 1. We are back in classify suits playing first at no trump. The last 4 Boolean variables we are interested in, I have room to develop 2 or more suits. We take more tricks if either opponent leads. We have only one winning suit. All of my winning suits are one-win stoppers. They're all set in set Boolean variables 3. So let's run this. We'll trace set Boolean variables 3. This is the assessment set Boolean variables 3. The Boolean variable I have room to develop 2 or more suits is set in set Boolean variables 3.04. So let's run this and trace 304. This assessment sets 3 Boolean variables. We are interested in the Boolean variable. In the variable, I have room to develop 2 or more suits. It is set in the 3rd paragraph. The first 2 paragraphs both set the variable, I have room to develop 1 suit. Paragraph 3 defines 3 ways in which the Boolean variable, I have room to develop 2 or more suits, can be true. The first test is of the Boolean variable, there are 4 or more free tricks. We saw it set to true in set Boolean variables 1.2. The second test tests the number of probable tricks everyone can take in all suits if I lead, and that would be 8. So I have room to develop 2 or more suits is true. Before leaving this assessment, look at the next test. The test will be false, but I want to point out where the game gets the information used in this test. The number of possible tricks, and that would be in the possible tricks count, the number of possible tricks that they, East and West, can take in all suits if I, South, lead. This is possible tricks. South leads, East and West, their total. East can take 5, West can take 7. That's 12. And that's where you get the information for possible tricks. We're done in here. Let's just run to the end. We're back in set Boolean variables 3. The Boolean variable we take more tricks if either opponent leads is set in set Boolean variables 305. So we'll trace it. This is the assessment set Boolean variables 3.05. This assessment sets 5 Boolean variables. We are interested in the variable we take more tricks if either opponent leads. We'll run these first 2 paragraphs. We saw these counters get set earlier in the assessment. Count the number of extra tricks we can take. Extra tricks we can take if left-hand opponent leads was set to 2. Extra tricks we can take if right-hand opponent leads was set to 1. So set the Boolean variables. We can take more tricks if left-hand opponent leads, and we can take more tricks if right-hand opponent leads. Since those 2 variables were set to true, the last paragraph will set the variable we take more tricks if either opponent leads to true. We are back in set Boolean variables 3. The Boolean variable we have only one winning suit is set in set Boolean variables 3.09. So let's run that one, run that one, run that one, and we'll trace this one. This is the assessment set Boolean variables 3.09. This assessment sets 4 Boolean variables. 2 of the variables are set based upon the number of suits there are in which we can take first pass tricks. One of those variables is the one in which we are interested. We have only one winning suit. The counter I will be used to count the number of suits in which we can take first pass tricks if I lead. Initialize it to 0. The number of tricks taken in the first 2 passes is found in the win-lose section of the variable settings window. These are the first 2 passes. We are interested in the first pass only. Each suit is tested one at a time. If we, north-south, can take any tricks in the first pass, increment the counter I by 1. The only suit in which we can take first pass tricks is diamonds. We lose in spades, lose in hearts, win in diamonds, and lose in clubs. Since I is set to 1, we have only one winning suit is set to true. We are back in set Boolean variables 3. The Boolean variable, all of my winning suits are one-win stoppers, is set in set Boolean variables 3.13. Let's run this, run this, run this. We'll trace this one. This is the assessment set Boolean variables 3.13. This assessment sets 2 Boolean variables. We are interested in the variable all of my winning suits are one-win stoppers. A one-win stopper is a suit in which we can win exactly one trick in the first pass, and they can take one or more tricks in the second pass. This is the assessment set Boolean variables 3.13.1. For all of my winning suits to be one-win stoppers, we must have some winning suits. The first rule ensures that we have at least one suit in which we can take at least one trick in the first pass. In the next 4 rules, each suit is tested one at a time. The rules are looking for a suit that is a winner but is not a one-win stopper. First, the suit is a winner if we take at least one trick in the first pass. Second, the suit is not a one-win stopper if we do not take exactly one trick in the first pass. The suit is also not a one-win stopper if they do not take at least one trick in the second pass. Spades is not a winner. Hearts is not a winner. Diamonds is a winner, but it is also a one-win stopper. Clubs is not a winner. No negative conclusion was reached. A positive conclusion without tests was reached. We are back in set Boolean variables 3.13. Since set Boolean variables 313.1 was true, set the Boolean variable all of my winning suits are one-win stoppers to true. We are back in set Boolean variables 3, and we're done here. We can just run to the end of the page. We are back in classify suits playing first at no trump. The suit attribute must be developed is set in set suit attributes to be developed 1. So we'll just run these. Set suit attributes to be developed 1, and we'll trace that. This is the assessment set suit attributes to be developed 1. It tests each suit one at a time by setting the suit variable temp suit 1 and calling set suit attributes to be developed 1.1. Let's skip spades. We'll just run that. We'll look at hearts. We'll trace hearts. This is the assessment set suit attributes to be developed 1.1. The suit attribute must be developed is set in suit attributes, set suit attributes to be developed 1.1.4. So let's just run this one, run this one, run this one. We'll trace this one. This is the assessment set suit attributes to be developed 1.1.4. The first 3 paragraphs tests reasons not to develop temp suit 1. The suit attribute must be developed is set in set suit attributes to be developed 1.1.4.2. So let's trace that. This is the assessment set suit attributes to be developed 1.1.4.2. This assessment sets 4 suit attributes, including the attribute must be developed. First, make sure that giving the opponents the lead in temp suit 1 doesn't result in the loss of too many tricks. Set X to the number of probable tricks everyone can take in all suits if I lead, and that is 8. Subtract the number of sure tricks everyone can take in temp suit 1. Temp suit 1 is hearts, and that would be 1. Add the number of possible tricks they can take in temp suit 1 in the first pass if I lead. That's hearts. Since we lose one, they could take one. So that's a 1. The value of X is calculated this way because there are instances where the number of possible tricks the opponents can take in the first pass in temp suit 1 if I lead is greater than the number of sure tricks everyone can take in temp suit 1. If X is less than the number of tricks left to play, there is no threat in leading a loser from temp suit 1. If there is no threat in leading from temp suit 1, hearts, then hearts can be developed. The next paragraph does not apply to this situation. The next 2 tests are based upon how many tricks we can take in the second pass in temp suit 1. In this case, that would be 5. The more tricks we can take in the second pass, the more imperative it is to develop that suit. If we can take more than 1 trick in the second pass, temp suit 1 should be developed. If we can take more than 2 tricks in the in the second pass, temp suit 1 must be developed. We are back in set suit attributes to be developed 1.1.4. Let's finish it. We are back in set suit attributes to be developed 1.1. Just run to the end of it. We are back in set suit attributes to be developed 1. Run to the end of it. We are back in classify suits playing first at no trump. And we're through with this, so let's run to the end of that page. We are back in I have a card to lead playing no trump. We have seen how the Boolean variables, I have room to develop 2 or more suits. We take more tricks if either opponent leads. We have only one winning suit. All of my winning suits are one-win stoppers. And the suit attribute must be developed or set. Now let's see how they are used to select which card to which suit and which card to play. Before we do that, let's take a quick look at the variable settings window. Specifically, let's look at the Boolean variables and suit attributes. These are all of the Boolean variables and suit attributes that were set by classify suits playing first at no trump. Now let's trace I have a suit and card to lead playing no trump. This is the assessment I have a suit and card to lead playing no trump. This assessment calls 36 other assessments. With a couple of exceptions, these assessments can be divided into 4 basic actions. Take winners, finesse, develop some winners, put an opponent in the lead. The different types of actions are interleaved with the most obvious and unambiguous selections earlier in the list. This one was false. This one will be false, false. Let's trace I want to develop some winners 1. This is the assessment I want to develop some winners 1. Trace, I want to develop some winners 1.1. This is the assessment I want to develop some winners 1.1. This assessment tests 2 additional assessments. The first assessment, I want to develop some winners 1.1, is tested for reasons not to develop some winners. The second assessment, I want to develop some winners 1.1.2, is tested for reasons to develop some winners. Let's look at the first assessment. So let's trace it. This is the assessment I want to develop some winners 1.1.1. In considering the question of whether or not to develop some winners, the rules look for a reason to develop winners, then they look for a reason not to develop them. If no other conclusion is reached, the last rule, a simple true conclusion, will return a positive value. A reason to develop some winners has been found in the first assessment tested. So let's trace it. This is the assessment I want to develop some winners 1.1.1.1. These first 2 are false, but now I have room to develop 2 or more suits was set in set Boolean variables 3.04. Hearts must be developed was set to true in set suit attributes to be developed. And that was, so the number of suits with true attribute must be developed is greater than 0. We take more tricks if either opponent leads was set in set Boolean variables 3.05. We have only one winning suit was set to true was set in set Boolean variables 3.09. All of my winning suits or one-win stoppers was set in set Boolean variables 3.13. We have reached a positive conclusion. We are back in I want to develop some winners 1.1.1. We are back in I want to develop some winners 1.1. Now let's trace this next one. This is the assessment I want to develop some winners 1.1.2. It was decided in I want to develop some winners 1.1.1 that we did want to develop some winners. This assessment selects which suit to develop. The suits are tested against each other, 2 at a time, to determine which suit to lead. The suit, card, and trick variables section of the variable settings window shows the settings of the suit variables. Develop suit is undecided. Temp suit 1 to the longest suit, and temp suit 2 to the second longest suit. So we'll test these first 2 suits. This is the assessment I want to develop some winners. To be developed, a suit must have the suit attribute can be developed set to true. If we look at the suit attributes section of the variable settings window, only one suit, hearts, can be developed. Neither of these suits, diamonds or spades, can be developed. Spades, hearts can be developed. Diamonds and clubs. Only hearts can be developed. So diamonds can be developed as false, and spades can be developed as false. We don't want to develop either of those. Set temp suit 1 to develop suit. Which is undecided. Set temp suit 2 to my third longest suit. Trace this. We are back in I want to develop some winners 1.1.2.1. The attribute can be developed was set to true for hearts in the assessment set suit attributes to be developed 1.1.4.2. If both suits can be developed, additional tests will determine which suit is the better to develop. Now we set develop suit to temp suit 1, temp suit 2, which is hearts, We are back in I want to develop some winners 1.1.2. Test the last suit. Develop suit is still set to hearts. Develop suit is not undecided, so we'll set best suit to develop suit. We are back in I want to develop some winners 1.1. And we're done here. We are back in I want to develop some winners 1. We have seen how the rules decided whether or not to develop a suit and then chose which suit to develop. Now let's see how the rules select which card to play. Best suit was set to hearts in I want to develop some winners 1.1.2. This is set best card between me and partner. This is set best card between me and partner. This assessment calls 23. This assessment calls 23 other assessments. With a couple of exceptions, these assessments can be divided into 8 basic actions. Finesse, play a winner, play from possible tricks, play my highest card, play my lowest card, play my lowest card to push opponent, push left opponent, push right opponent. This one is false, false, false. We're just going to run the ones that are false. And now we've gotten one that is true. I want to play my lowest card, SBC3. This is I want to play my lowest card, SBC3. These are false, false, false. Now we'll trace I want to play, this is my lowest, this is I want to play my lowest card, 3.4. If best suit, which is hearts, is a possible lose one, win one plus suit if I lead, and hearts is a lose one, win 5, if the number of sure tricks they can take in best suit if I lead equals 1, we go to sure tricks. In hearts, the number of sure tricks they can take is 1. If the number of cards held by partner above left opponent's highest card held in best suit is greater than or equal to left opponent's length in best suit, that means North can play their high cards and take all of West's cards. North can play their high cards and take all of East's cards, except for East's highest card. So it's the number of cards above right opponent's second highest card. Right opponent is greater than or equal to the right opponent's length left in best suit. Then North can play all of their high cards and take all of East's cards. A true conclusion was reached. We are back in I want to play my lowest card. Set the variable best card to the 4 of hearts. We are back in set best card between me and partner 1.1. We are back in set best card between me and partner 1. If a card has not been selected, then it would set the best card to the lowest card in the suit. If the best if the card selected is not the lowest card, then the assessment is done. If the card selected is the lowest card, then make one last check that whether a higher card is better. We're done here. We're back in. I want to develop some winners. 1. We are back in. I have a suit and card to lead playing no trump. This next rule handles the situation of leading on the first trick in no trump with the 4th highest card in your suit, which is false here. We are back in. I have a card to lead in no trump. We're back in the main group, play at no trump. South plays the 4 of hearts. It is West's turn to play. We have seen how the rules use a player's information to select a card to play. Selecting a card depends upon solving 2 separate problems. The first is, how are the cards distributed? The second is, for a given distribution, which is the best card to play? As to the first problem, the distribution of the cards, the video Introduction to Playing described the way in which each player creates an inferred view of the hands as they start their turn to play. A player creates this view based upon the information they know. The cards in their hand, the cards in dummy's hand, the point counts that were inferred from the bidding, the suit links that were inferred from the bidding, the number of cards from each suit a player has played, the high card count each player has played, which players have shown void in a suit. Of course, in this presentation, the rules use the actual cards. We use the actual cards because we were studying the deal. To practice playing, we would use the inferred view. After a player plays their card, each of the other players performs a play review, similar to the bid review performed after a player bids. At the moment, the play review only records the high cards played and which players have shown void in a suit. I would like to add more function to the play review. There is more information that can be extracted from the way the cards are played. I also want to expose the results of the play review to the user in a way similar to the bid review. In this presentation, we looked at the second problem. For a given distribution, which is the best card to play? As you saw, this game solves that problem in a manner different from most, possibly all, other computer bridge games. I only know a little about a few games, but every game I know about solves the second problem with a double dummy solver. For a given distribution, selecting a card with a double dummy solver works absolutely perfectly, but it does not show a person how to select a card. That is, a person cannot follow the game's steps to select a card. Ray's bridge game is different in that it selects a card by applying logic to information extracted from the distribution of the hands. It is possible to follow the logic to understand exactly why a particular card is chosen. We saw, in this case, how South recognized that there were less sure tricks than tricks left to play. South then found an opportunity to develop some tricks by forcing out the opponent's single winner in a suit which North could then run. While I do not know for certain, I believe that most computer bridge games select a card through an incremental process. The game creates a view of the distribution of the hands, and the game's double dummy solver chooses the best card from the view. Then the game alters the distribution and runs the double dummy solver again to get a second card. This process is continued until a consensus is reached as to which of the chosen cards is the most suitable. This is an excellent approach. Currently, Ray's Bridge Game only builds a single view of the distribution before executing the rules on it to choose a card. I am working on some enhancements that I hope will improve the game's distribution of the cards. I am also considering an incremental approach to constructing a view. That is, to run the rules on the view to see if they would pick the same card as the last player. If the rules pick the same card, that somewhat validates the view. If the rules pick a different card, a rearrangement of the view would be justified. I hope you enjoyed this look at how Ray's Bridge Game plays the cards. Thank you for letting me show it to you. You can download the game for free from raysbridgegame.com. The game is written in Java, so you must have Java installed on your computer.